Hey there, my name is Vaughn, and this is the Vaughncast Show. This is a podcast that focuses on mental health, breaking societal stigmas, harm reduction, addiction, and recovery. If you like what you hear, subscribe and leave a review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Also, follow the podcast Instagram at The Vaughncast Show, where I post video content from the show. All right, let's get into today's episode. All right, welcome to the Vaughncast Show. Hope you are doing well. I got a special guest today, all the way out in New Zealand. Stephanie, how are you today?
Kia ora. Hi, Vaughn. Thanks for having me. It's weird hearing my full government name. I just go by Stef now, but Stephanie is cool.
Stef.
Yeah.
Okay, Stef. Yeah, my bad,
It's
Stef.
yeah, it's good. I've been in New Zealand, or as we say in the indigenous name Aotearoa, for I think this is my 7th year.
Okay.
And we're opposite seasons to you, which is why I'm wearing a jacket. It's winter here.
Right. Yeah. I have a couple of buddies in Australia, and they say that their Christmas is in July, and that kind of trips me out.
Well, Christmas is still on Christmas, but yeah, it's
But-
winter.
Yeah. Yeah.
I will
Wait.
say a summer Christmas, like, because when we actually have Christmas, it's in our summer season, and that's pretty dope.
That's what I meant. Not July Christmas, but like when it's December there, it's like summertime.
Yeah.
So you're in visual effects, you're a photographer, DJ, boxer, and you're in remission. So before I hit record, we were talking about, dude, I haven't seen your face like in person. Well, it's not in person, but since 2007, 2008. I'm bad at math.
That's
but that's like
wild.
that's a long time, right?
I think we look the same because Asian don't raisin.
Yeah, yeah. We had a similar haircut too. Got the mullet going.
Yeah, we have them. I need
Right.
to work on my sides, my little
Yeah.
fade. It's grown out a bit, but yeah.
Dude, wow. Like, okay, I'm bad at math. What's that like? 2000. That's like over 10 years at least.
It's like that's like over 15 years because of my high school reunion, which I didn't go to.
Why not?
I live here.
I know, it's a joke. How come you didn't go? Bakit, pare? Why did you go?
Oh, I'm sorry. Plane
That's
flights
okay.
are expensive.
Oh yeah, no, I'm kidding. I didn't go
I
to
know.
mine either. I feel like, with you can just go online now. I feel like with social media,
Yeah.
I don't want to. I already know what everybody's doing. I know, like, y'all got a job, you got a kid. I don't really want to know anything else,
Yeah. I have my homies and
Yeah.
I talk to them regularly and I'm just like big crowds. Like even though I DJ, a lot of spaces where a lot of people are talking give me a lot of anxiety.
No, you're so right. I totally agree. I used to rave back then and like party and like pop Molly and shit. And as I got older, going to these raves or EDM shows, I'm like, dude, I'm feeling kind of like, I don't know. I feel a little on edge, even though I was rolling and everything. And I realized like, yeah, I don't like big spaces much. I don't like
Yeah.
crowds that much, even though I do music and everything. But if I was to go to a show, I'd be all the way in the back. I don't want to get caught in the
Mhm.
or anything.
We're older and sober.
Older and sober. Yeah, definitely. Wow. So last time we were seeing each other, we were hanging out. Last time we were like hanging out, partying. It was like, this was at parties back at the college we went to. In like 2007, we had, we ran in similar circles and we like followed each other on MySpace. And so my question is, what's
MySpace.
MySpace.
Dang,
man.
dang, you gotta out me like that.
I was
We're
on MySpace too.
We're
No.
old.
We're
You gonna bring up Asian Avenue or Friendster now?
or Zanga.
Oh my God, I did love Zanga. I fuck with
Me
Zanga.
too.
I do use Substack.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't mean to deter this
No,
conversation, but
yeah.
I hate social media, and I'm sure being a creative and having doing your podcast and shit, like there's that pressure to output and content create, whatever the hell that means, which isn't a very fluid process for me. But there's this there's this platform called Substack, which is like newsletters and essentially blogging. And it reminds me of Zanga. So I use that now because I majored in screenwriting back in our uni days. Um, so my first love, if anything, of all my side quests that I do is writing. And yeah. So that is like I'm finding myself kind of retracting back to the our what early 2010 days of social media and
Yeah.
how it used to be, and it just being like an evergreen system of, post what do you want to, not having to churn stuff for the clout.
Yeah, I'm dealing with that right now. I'm at a crossroads to where sometimes, no, a lot of times because of the algorithm and everything, sometimes I feel like even though I know I put my heart and soul into an episode or making a reel or my music, it doesn't get as many likes as it did. And I've said this on a previous podcast. It kind of messes with my mind sometimes. Sometimes I even
Hmm.
question myself and think, was this even good? I think social media has somewhat conditioned me to think likes and views and engagements equals quality. And I had to tell myself that it doesn't. And
Nah.
I was I was really into like, content all the time, but now I'm kind of slowing down and realizing maybe, I still do music and podcasts and everything, but I shouldn't use external values and vanity numbers to gauge the quality of my stuff. I know my stuff is good,
Yeah.
not in like a bragging way, but I know like I put my heart and soul into it and like it's good content, but it's just social media sometimes has me feeling otherwise, thinking otherwise.
I know it's freaking toxic like that, eh? My partner is an artist, a character illustrator, and for some reason, well, he's really talented. He's figured out this system to not have to rely on that. But something that he says that like resonates with me is that if Instagram weren't a thing, like, I mean, people still gotta find you. Like, how are you like still doing your stuff? You can't just do things like reliant on like people finding you on Instagram. So I'm like, yeah, that's true. Like, and most of my DJing, even though people find me on Instagram and stuff, like know me through word of mouth, or my gigs end up happening through word of mouth, like by recommendation by people who essentially fuck with me. So
Right, right. Okay, so this was again, I saw you last time I saw you was 2007. A lot has changed. What made you end up moving to New Zealand on the other side of the world?
I know that I didn't really need to leave LA. Um, and I was coming up as a DJ more and more. I trained with, I don't know if you remember, so my crew, they did DJ at season parties. Shout out to the Come Up crew, Mitchell, Dumlau, Michael too. I've invited, when I used to be in student union, I would invite them out to gigs, and they were friends with some former pie caps. Oh fuck, I like everything's just coming back to me. Um, so I learned from them by watching them and like, opened like for them at their residencies at bars and stuff. And then people knew that I learned from them. So they're like, you must be good. Sorry. I'm like, I'm getting to it. Undiagnosed ADHD, talking here. Um, but I was starting to come into my own. People were like, um, recognizing that I was doing my thing. And I want to say I should have stayed in LA. But I just wanted to experience something else. And I would like to say it was out of ambition, but in truth, I was running away from shit. Um, like running out away from a relationship that really damaged me. And I was really like victimized by my perpetrators, and I just was like, fuck it. I had the opportunity via work to relocate to another company, and luckily I had the connections to just get in the door at a one of like the biggest VFX studios in the world. And yeah, I'd like to say
Okay.
it was through meritocracy, and a lot of it was, but to be honest, I left home to live somewhere else by myself, not knowing anybody, because I just was like, fuck this.
No, I appreciate the honest answer. I think it was a sign that, hey, it's time to start over or get away from it, because it can,
100.
you know, um, I like LA. I still live in, the Valley or LA County. I don't want to like, ooh, LA's, the Valley's not LA, but, the Valley,
Technically is.
technically is, but you know how it is. Like, oh,
Yeah.
no, you're in the Valley, bro. When you fucking Valley girl. No, I think it's a good move. I think sometimes you need a reset and you had the chance. I wouldn't, maybe you might see as running away, but I see it as like a new start. I mean, sometimes you just have to start over in a new place. And
Yeah.
looking back, you made a good choice.
Yeah.
I'm also diagnosed with ADHD. I can feel like this is going to be an ADHD, like, because we're going to go back and forth. When did
All
you
good.
find out, when did you find out you had ADHD?
I am not diagnosed, I should say that.
Oh,
And
okay.
just to go back to, I'll tell you how I've come to find that out. But just, when you run away from things, even though thank you for saying it was a good move. But if you're not resolved with yourself, you're not doing your work, which I was in the process of doing my work. I've been in 14 years in therapy now. Like, your demons follow you wherever. So just because you go somewhere, they'll come with you. They'll be like, sweet, another place. And, shit's manifested in different ways um, when I move. But yeah, finding out I'm probably ADHD. Well, so we were talking about my cancer journey. I've always struggled with depression and anxiety. I was suicidal. I'm all good with that now. I've had like 2 times that I wouldn't say attempts, but where you're in when you're in the throes of shit. Um, like cute attempts, I would say.
Cute. This is like, are you playing My Chemical
Like if
Romance?
I like, huh? Like
Were
if
you playing My Chemical Romance in the background? Just curious.
I mean that would have been better of a story. I think. Well, the first time I was watching Melancholia, the movie, fucking depressing as shit, and I was trying to take pills and swig bourbon.
Okay. All right.
And then I was also attempting to, okay, content warning. But I was trying to do damage. But I didn't want to do it in a visible space. And I also don't like paper cuts or razor cuts, Sorry for anyone listening. Skip this. But I was basically a punk. And I couldn't, commit. And then the second time I was in the mindset of it, and I was like doing my process of, saying goodbye to the world and cleaning up my space. Like, I'm not gross, but I'm not really organized either. I'm chaos organized. But I was like cleaning the shit out of my flat, just so you can leave like a good impression on yourself. Like, when like you have people coming over and you want to like tidy up and stuff. It's kind of like
Yeah.
that vibe. In case anyone has to come see me. And then God, see, I don't even know where I was going with this.
We were talking about your quote unquote cute attempts.
Oh, so those were cute. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I went to in Pasadena, that bridge, they call it Suicide Bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they already have like the razors so that people wouldn't jump off and everything. I drove there that night, um, just to like look and just to like internalize like the feeling of jumping, even though it wouldn't happen. And then I called one of my friends in the Valley to be like, you know what? You need to call Suicide Watch on me and like take me there, and then I'll leave my car with you for like the 24 hours or whatever. And then he was like, no, just stay with me. I will look out for you for the weekend. And well, like he essentially was like, I'll suicide watch you, which turned out to be really good. Um, we went to Six Flags because it's like if you want to, feel a thrill or anything, you can ride on some rides. I loved Riddler's Revenge. And then I got a tattoo. So it's like if you want to like, bleed, like he went halfsies on me on like a tattoo, like do it in a cool way. So it was quite smart and really supportive.
Wow. I had no idea. I mean, a lot of times we don't know with this stuff. I never, okay, for the people listening, I don't know you too well, but I feel like we had a good enough vibe when we were hanging out that, okay, she's cool. But I'm like learning like, oh shit, like this is really intense. Thank you for sharing that. Wow. I'm glad you're still here. That was a very smart move on your friend. The Six Flags thing is smart. The tattoo thing is smart. So
Yeah.
hats
Yeah.
off. So we were talking about ADHD and how you're dealing with like anxiety and depression and those types of thoughts.
Yeah.
And
So a lot of those, looking at those experiences in retrospect, like I've it's been thrown out that I have BPD, which gets misdiagnosed because a lot of people who are diagnosed as with BPD, borderline personality disorder, actually have ADHD or autism. I haven't gone through that journey yet of being diagnosed, but a lot of evidence says that that could be the case. But the BPD stuff definitely feels legit based on past trauma and whatever. And I've done a lot of the work to kind of, I guess, like amend a lot of things. And, I have a lot of tools in my arsenal to curb panic attacks or anxiety attacks or, supersede the voices that I tell myself when I'm really like, when I'm not hearing good things.
right.
But it was, I think there's such a higher discourse around mental health now than when we were coming up, that a lot of people um are putting out videos and content about this thing, and some of it is like too real. Like, isn't this just being a person? Isn't this just me being me? And then I'm like, okay, getting too specific now. But I've it's funny that um with my work ethic and my drive, I've just always thought that high functioning was a kind of a flex. Like I'm just really hyper focused a lot, not thinking that, this could be a thing. But when I met my partner 2 years ago and we were first dating, I was really erratic. Like I had no business dating and I knew that. Because I was so busy with work. I just had like my regular pay the bills work on top of like figuring out DJ stuff and, editing photos. And um, we had seen each other a few times and he wanted to come see me again. And I was like, well, I made a lot of food for dinner because I don't know how to cook for one person. So you can come over and have dinner with me, I guess. And he observed all of like my sporadicness. And then when like later down the line when we were like, what did you think when we first met? He's like, I thought you were autistic. And I was like, what the and I've never been so called out like that before. It was fine. Like, but it just, you don't think that it's you until you run things back and you're like, oh shit. And a lot of friends, like, they kind of do the same thing without, you know, when I guess like, queer people with neurodivergencies, we kind of tend to find each other. So I think me being friends with a lot of people who just happen to be that way, they assume that we are all that way. And some things that I do or some mannerisms, or if they see me stimming, they're like, oh, that's so like, they'll be like, ah, you're ADHD. I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I got diagnosed ADHD a couple of years ago. And when I found out, it made so much sense. I had a sense of clarity and relief. Also with anxiety and depression, I think it comes, it's like a combo. It's like you get like a combo at McDonald's. Like, okay, you have ADHD, you have like a ADHD. Oh, you probably have a side of depression and a side of anxiety too with it.
Yeah.
So, it felt really nice. I was like, okay, now I know what's wrong. And looking back, it makes sense why I subconsciously or just self-medicated, which became addiction and trauma and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
because the drugs I took, it kind of leveled me out. Um, but looking back, I was definitely a different person, like when you're like on one and stuff. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. And
What's
yeah,
it like getting diagnosed? I mean, in your
so,
30s, and what made you decide to, you know, actually pursue a diagnosis,
so
especially
the
with your
thing,
health care and how expensive it is?
oh, dude, I paid out of pocket like crazy. I'm like, fuck. Okay, funny story. This is gonna be definitely an ADHD episode. Funny. So pretty much, I went into therapy because I was like, okay, I admit I have a problem with using. Up until I got clean in 2022, I've been using on and off for 14 years. When we hung out, it was mainly just drinking. I think drinking was a norm when we were in college, right? Little pills here and there, a little bit of coke, but not really, just mainly drinking. But I think I said, okay, I need help, right? I tried self-help books, didn't work. I couldn't do it by myself, and I didn't want to do the 12-step program just yet.
Mm.
So I went to therapy, and I think the therapist asked me if I had ADHD or been diagnosed, because I think it was a FaceTime like this, and she kind of like tell my manners and was kind of like, moving my hands a lot. I was kind of fidgeting, and I think I was just coming down from like being high. But then she ran through like a diagnosis. She like asked me a bunch of questions, and okay, from scale of 1 to 10, this and that, and it took a while. But then when she told me, I'm like, oh, it makes sense. So yeah, I felt relieved. I I felt really relieved. I take antidepressant medication, a very small amount, just to like level me out, because after I stopped using, after 6 months, I didn't feel a lot, and I was suggested you should look into that, so I did. So yeah,
Are you on
overall,
anything now, like other than antidepressants? Because I'm on SSRIs right now, and I'm like, I wonder if there's anything more targeted that would be better than that.
I don't know too much about antidepressant medication, but I have Wellbutrin. I don't know if that's an SSRI, but I take a small amount, like 75 milligrams each day. It's a little pill. It doesn't
Mm.
make me feel super happy, but I just feel like quote unquote normal. Like if I don't take it
Yeah.
after a few days, I know something's up.
Mm. Yeah, same. You know what? Can I ask you something?
Yeah, please ask away.
Because I think as creatives, especially when you go into therapy and you start doing, you start taking medication, there's this fear that your quote unquote spark's gonna go away. Um, or you won't tap into like your creative juices as well. Like, do you find that that's true, or like, do you still feel like as fluid in your creativity otherwise, or?
Right. That's a really good question. No, it's your podcast now. Okay. Um, you know, so it's funny you say that, because for a long time, I thought I needed to be under the influence to create. I always felt like, I had more courage. I remember at parties, I'd like get drunk and I started freestyling. Without being drunk, I wouldn't do it. But other things was like, okay, well, if I do like other drugs, I like lock in, I get into this mindset, and it was cool. And a lot of times I was scared to stop using, because I thought, well, what's going to happen? Like,
Mm.
this is like this is like my, I don't know, this is what I need to get from point A to point B. And without it, who am I in general? I mean, aside from creativity, it's like, who am I? Like, I don't know. I built this whole identity around like using, and with creativity, especially, it's like, I can't even do anything without like getting high. So that scared me. But over time, I realized, hey, I can. I didn't lose like my creativity. If anything, it enhanced it more because I'm more like focused. I have clarity in my head, and yeah, I mean, like, it feels good and it's great. But to be honest, towards the end, I think I was just using an excuse to get high. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna write a song. I'm gonna get some drugs, but I never wrote a song. I mean, I did for like the first 10 minutes, but then I got sidetracked and did something totally different. Before you know it, it's like, I don't know, been like a couple of days, and it's like, oh shit, what about that song? You know?
What's it like performing sober as opposed to not sober?
I haven't really performed since like the pre-pandemic. So, but I will say that performing sober tends to have a better outcome, because when I perform when I'm under the influence, I tend to slur and forget my words, you know? So
Yeah.
that's a big thing. So right then and there, I realized, hey, if I'm going to perform, I should just not drink or do anything else, because it's going to affect my memory. I'm horrible at memorizing things, so it's bad enough. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it really has much of an effect on me either. I'm just more, it feels more like I feel more accomplished that I don't need to drink and DJ at the same time. And but honestly, like, I've done it for so long that I should practice more to up my game. But all the tricks I turn, like when I play, like that's the work that I've put into my craft, and I don't need a substance, to, yeah. But the thing about performing in New Zealand as opposed to LA is that LA people, you're playing to, I found my experience to be more playing to the crowd, and I'm just like part of the ambiance. And people just will request songs. Like, it's more of a requesting culture in LA than it is in New Zealand. But when I played New Zealand and Australia, they watch you. I think that's more of a thing now globally, but especially with the whole boiler room culture, but I've never experienced people just watching me play like as if I were a performer, or like a singer or something. Than when I've like played in New Zealand, and I was like, this is different. I can't just hide behind my set. So there's like a lot of cultural things with a gig space that are so different from each other, LA to Aotearoa and here. People, well, I mean, except if it's like a predominantly brown space with a lot of Maori and Pacifica, which, not gonna lie, like the city I live in is like the whitest place I've ever lived in. It's diverse, but not like, where you and I are from. People don't really dance, and I'm used to like people grinding and like really like flexing on each other, and I had to give permission. I found that like, I had to dance myself on stage and give permission for people to be like, you should be freaking moving to this music I'm playing, like the fuck. So
Right. Okay. So New Zealand, I always like hearing slang or cool words from different countries, just in general. And I think you greeted this podcast with New Zealand.
Kia ora.
What does that mean?
Kia ora. It's kind of like, I can't really explain it better than someone of Maori descent would explain it, but it's kind of like mahalo to me, or aloha, where it has multiple meanings, but you use it it's like a way to greet someone. It's a way to say thank you. It's a way to like acknowledge people. Like, like if you were to like do something for me and I say thanks, it's like, oh yeah, kia ora, like thanks, or
right. Okay. Are there any cool words or like slang that you found
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
interesting? Yeah, bust them out.
Yeah. I love, so I box, and it's a really communal space. My boxing gym at the end of every class, like we like fist each other, like, and
This,
that's like shot, bro, shot, like, or if you're acknowledging like someone doing like a good job, or if they did something for you, like they got your back on saying, oh yeah, shot, like pound, like we say shot. Um, an old school term, but it's kind of like making a resurgence, like when when someone's really cool. I think the youths would say Riz.
yeah, same here.
But
Same here.
like but the term, the Kiwi slang term is skucks. Like
Shucks.
they're skucks, you're skucks, like you're
Okay.
real cool. There's just like I tend to say I reckon a lot now. I think I'm gonna go get some fried chicken.
Right.
I reckon I want some fried chicken.
So is kiwi, what is that? I know like I've heard that term before. What does that exactly mean?
Um, the kiwi bird is the one of like the national birds here. They have like a really conscious like environmental conservation type mentality here, and I think it derives from the kiwi bird. I'm not going to say that officially, but the more, I guess, PC term is New Zealander.
Right.
Because I think a lot of Maori and Pacific people wouldn't necessarily subscribe to themselves as being Kiwi, because that um, the country's colonized by British people,
Right.
right? So there's a distinction amongst like the indigenous Maori people and then also Pacifica people who have like a high representation here that like of like differentiating themselves and I guess like yeah, acknowledging themselves and pursuing land back, you know?
Gotcha. Okay. Weird question. Is this C word big there?
Yes. I
Yeah.
love saying cunt.
Me too. I
Yeah.
love saying it too. Obviously it's a
You can
different
say it.
meaning. I know. I don't like saying, I mean, I like saying it around people like my friends who are like Australian, New Zealand. But,
Yeah.
okay. So I have a friend. I don't think we're like as cool anymore, but it was a time we call each other Cunt Bay on Facebook. She's from
Cunt
Australia.
Bay.
Yeah. Cunt Bay.
I love that.
Yeah. It's Cunt Bay. And it's so funny because, I was like, this is a cool thing. I like getting tattoos. I got Cunt Bay tatted on me
That's dope.
right here.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Ah,
I
the
put the
X.
X. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because my tattoo artist, my friend, I was like, hey, yeah, I'm trying to get a Cunt Bay. I'm like, what? What are you trying to get? I'm like, I'm trying to get Cunt Bay. Like, bro, what?
Yeah.
I'm like, no. It's like, it's for my friend in Australia. It's cool. Like, we'll put an X on it though, So that's my little story. Okay. I had to ask. Yeah. Cause it's definitely a different meaning.
It's it doesn't have as bad of a connotation. There's a lot of reclamation for it as well, with feminism, like reclaiming the word and taking it back. And when you got real good buddies, like you could say, hey, he's a good cunt,
Oh, you can't. What's up, cunt?
Like, yeah. Oh, it wouldn't be that, like, but like if like you're a good cunt, like I'll describe you as like he's a good cunt.
Yeah, my cunt. Yeah. Cool. I'm glad we got that out of the way.
But you know what? And me not being originally from New Zealand, I'm not the authority on giving you permission.
Right. I like to ask, I have a friend in New Zealand too, and yeah, he says it's like it depends like where you're at, but within good friends, and everybody listening is good friends, so it's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah, I'm not gonna throw up pendejo everywhere.
yeah, flopos, yeah. Putangan mo, like
yeah.
Puta,
pare.
yeah, pare, oy pare, putangan mo. I have a coworker. He's Filipino at work, and no one. It's like me, him, and couple people like half, but like no one really understands what we're saying. So we're like, oh, putangan mo, like all this stuff. No one gets it. We're all laughing. Yeah. So okay.
Oh, speaking of Filipinos,
yes.
because you're Filipino too, I just have to say that there's an interesting diaspora experience that I've come to find living outside of the US, but within a Western culture. Because there's such a separation of how Philams, especially in SoCal, are perceived than how Filipinos outside of the US just the experiences are so different. There's the motherland that unites us, but I'm not gonna lie, like Philams appear to be like pretty egotistical, like they own a
Are you
lot
not
of
wrong?
Filipino.
You're not
Yeah.
wrong.
But it's such an interesting I mean I still rep Philam, and I'm now repping like Philo, like the shorthanded way to say Filipino here is Philo, which I just saw on the internet. Like a lot of people are like, "What the fuck is Philo?" I'm like,
Yeah,
bro, chill. It's
chill.
just a shorthand way of saying, who you are and where you're from, and it's a regional thing. It doesn't have to be so serious. Um, but yeah, it's such an interesting experience. It's like kind of like expanded my brain on like what it is to be Filipino elsewhere, and we're not Pacific Islander. And that realness like comes when you are amongst so many. I mean, there's Pacific Islanders where we're from as well, but here like they have such a more predominant culture, and I've come into a space where I'm learning and experiencing them and I'm in their house. So it's not like I can be like, "Oh, I see you because I'm Pacific Islander too." Oh no.
It's different, right? Um, I have a Filipino tattoo. It's a dagger, a sword.
Mm,
Yeah. Um, so it's interesting. Yeah, philos. I know people in Australia, Aussies. It's philo, you're philo. And I remember there was uproar about it. I was in a Facebook group like subtle Filipino traits, and people really made a big deal out of it. And I was like, I feel like I don't think it's derogatory. I think like we're basing like we think it might be because it's not how you say it, but they're on the other side of the world. They have different
hmm.
upbringing and culture and everything. So that's on them. It's who am I to say, oh, you can't call them that, but that's their thing. Is there a Jollibee in New Zealand?
No, and that is so, yeah. I have a friend whose father works in Jollibee, and I'm like, hook it up.
Yeah.
Um, I gotta say though that the food here is great. The local food is great. But overall, as in terms of like expansion, and a more open palette, it tends to be very Western here, and like British, Indian, and Chinese, Malaysian. Those are all great, but it's hard to find better stuff outside of that. I think it's getting better. Auckland's really the place to be for more eclectic food. But where I'm at, it's pretty pedestrian.
Right. Okay. So we'll gets a little deeper here. In 2020, you were diagnosed with non-Hodgkin lymphoma. What were your initial thoughts when you found out, or how'd you end up finding out?
So my specific tumor was pre-mediastinal B-cell lymphoma. I had a tumor that was 12 centimeters across my chest. Um, I found out because I just had this cough that wouldn't go away. I still cough, but turns out I'm asthmatic. Anyway, that was asthma aside because my lung was compressing because of the tumor. I remember the feeling I got when I first felt it. I was at work and I just had this big pain in my chest. I felt like a pop inside my chest, and it felt like very prolonged heartburn. And I was just asking my coworkers, like, is this right? Or is this just being an adult now? And they're like, yeah, it sounds about right. And I'm like, okay. Um, and I I was in a boxing camp. And though I seemed physically fine, like, this cough was just persisting. Was after having like 3 to 4 rounds of bronchitis, and I just wanted to check everything was cool before I could even fight. Like, just check everything was cool. Um, my GP was a dick, a proper cunt, and kept like dismissing me. And I really had to advocate for myself and like trust me and my body. Like, even when he um, put me in for like an x-ray, he still thought that this tumor that he saw was pneumonia. And he couldn't even say pneumonia. I was like, he kept saying a chest infection. I'm like, do I have pneumonia? And he was like, oh, I guess you could call it that. I'm like, bro, you're my fucking doctor. I can't be Googling this shit and like finding out more info than what you're giving me. Um, so I went to go see a respiratory specialist, and thankfully she was more empathetic. And of course, woman. So I think she was like onto something straight away. So she was like, I'm gonna put you in for another x-ray and a CT scan just for like good measure. The CT scan found a tumor, and they weren't sure if it was benign or malignant yet. So then I got put in for a biopsy with a cardiologist, and the biopsy confirmed that it was malignant, so it was cancer, which was actually a good thing compared to benign, because it's weird saying that, oh, thank God it's cancer, but that was the reality of it. Because if it were benign, I would have had to have an intense, like, what was it called? Not heart surgery. Just a really intense, like, bypass surgery, because the tumor was spreading around some of my main arteries. So for the tumor to be treated with a less invasive process like chemo, that would have been ideal, instead of cutting me up. And, that recovery process probably would have taken a lot longer. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And this all happened when COVID popped off. So that was really scary.
Right.
But luckily, New Zealand did a really great job of eradicating COVID in the country. I was really fortunate to be here and stay here, because, like, normally when you go through treatment, you shouldn't be around anybody. And everyone else had to isolate themselves, not just me. So I was like, oh, I'm not missing anything. And no one really noticed. And when I shaved my head, people just thought that Stef was being Stef in lockdown. Like, oh, they look cool with a shaved head. Wow. I'm like, oh, thanks. um, yeah, go on.
Yeah. No, yeah. I remember in the early lockdown phases, New Zealand was like the leading country with eradicating COVID. And I was like, man, it would be nice to live in New Zealand right now.
Yeah.
So you are right now cancer, you're in remission. What was like the healing process, and what were you going through like mentally when this was all happening?
Yeah. Honestly, from my personal experience with cancer, it's a treatable cancer. Like, there's a lot of progress in technology with what treating my particular cancer is. It's not as, it wasn't terminal. That said, if I had been in the States with elective care being pushed out to prioritize COVID patients, I really felt like I could have died in the States. So I was really fortunate to be in New Zealand. I'm really grateful for that. So showing up for my treatment and my just, like, doing my thing, it just felt like, once I found out and once I knew what the steps were next, is like that alleviated the whole wondering process, which I think you've explained, like when you were diagnosed with ADHD. Once you have the information, what you're working with, as opposed to being like, what the fuck is going on? So I just had to show up for myself, and that was the easier bit. And I think I was just in survival mode, to just gotta do the thing, you know? Um, and I got a lot of attention from my medical team than I normally like ever experienced in my life. And being cared for. Um, yeah, I just wasn't used to this much attention. So when I finished treatment and I wasn't getting calls from my nurses anymore, it was really jarring. I think the hardest bit actually was um, my first being declared remission, because like the care and attention for you just like drops. It's like a complete 180, you know, and uh, just because you've done the work, you know, or you've been through the hard parts of treatment, like the work doesn't stop. And that was like anxiety at its height, you know, and I've throughout treatment, like I've never experienced or never really knew what sleep paralysis felt like until then. I've had panic attacks and anxiety attacks before, but it was just a next level um, thing in my mental health that I never had dealt with before, and I didn't like, you know, looking back in my like arsenal of tools, I'm like, oh, how the fuck, like, how do I deal with this? Like the normal things like aren't doing the normal things, and that's what made me open to uh, antidepressants, really.
Mhm. Right. Wow. Well, congratulations on, again, being on remission. It seems like it's definitely a process. And I'm really glad that you were in New Zealand when you were, because you're right. I mean, in the States, they're prioritizing COVID patients, and I know healthcare is a lot better out in New Zealand. So looks like if you look back, you made the right choice when you decided to move out from LA.
Well, I didn't know at the time how right of a choice it would be, you know.
Yeah.
I just happened to be at the right place in the right time, and there was like, you know, a possibility of me coming home to deal with this with my family, um, under no health care. um, I guess like going through the Medicare route, but or is it called Medicare? What's the California
I
free
think it's
healthcare?
Medicare. Medicare. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Right. So I think during the pandemic, I think I read somewhere that you started taking like photography, you started taking photos of your friends, which became star shots, correct? Can you talk to us? Or how does
Um,
that go?
So the way I integrated myself back into socializing, especially as like an immunocompromised person, was to take I've always been into portraits. I've always been into photography because I inherited my dad's film camera, and he loves to take photos. He's like into nature photography. Um, but reintroducing myself back into society safely. I took portraits of my friends and portraits of my friends with masks, because that's how I felt safe, and that was also a way for me to advocate for people looking out for other people and people with disabilities. People might have their opinions on masking or whatever, and that's your bit. It's fine. Well, whatever. I have thoughts about you. But for me, like, you know, um, this is how I felt like I could be more social and do it safely, because, you know, people coughing in my face, like, you could fucking send me spiraling or die. um, so that that was just a practice to like kind of, I guess, like keep my juices flowing with creativity. And then it evolved into star shots. Yeah, that's like, and I've always wanted to do a nod to, you know, our late 90s, 2000 days where we go to the mall with our friends and take glamour shots or star shots. There's a Chicana artist in the Bay that goes by Little Croissant. Yvonne's their name, and they're a graphic designer that designed these backdrops, among other things. So there are other people in all over California, and I think a little bit in other parts of the states that have like a big, Chicano community that also do this. So I'm definitely not the only one. But it's cool to incorporate it with the Aotearoa community here and use it as a means to represent brown culture on this side of the world. So yeah. Uh, does that answer your question? Sorry,
Yes, it
ADHD, like
does.
going around
No,
it.
no, it really did. No, it's really cool. Thank you for explaining that. It's a very like cool way to integrate back into society because you immunocompromised, you want to hang out with friends, you got to stay at a distance, you take photography, take shots of people. That's pretty cool. I like the name as well. And I do remember the 90s or early 2000s. Unfortunately, I never like was able to like take those pictures, but I remember
Do they not have one at Northridge Mall?
no, they did, but I think I mean, I came from the Bay Area, and by the time I got here, I think in 2006 it was kind of like dying out. But I remember like a lot of my friends though, a lot of my Asian friends, I remember in our wallets we would carry those photos, and you would trade them, maybe write a message or something in the back.
Yeah.
And that was a thing to do. I was kind of jealous I never got to do that really, but like I definitely remember that. And it's so weird. In the shoebox somewhere, I probably have some from early 2000s, which is trippy, and the message is still there. So it's definitely nostalgic. And I really like how you brought that back or like brought it to over there from, with your point of view. So yeah, very nostalgic stuff. Going back to DJing, I always wondered how you pick your songs because, how do you decide to pick which songs throughout the night? Is there like a certain way you do it?
No. I do need to be better at curating, not gonna lie. It just takes so much work to build your arsenal of tunes. I do have like a good amount, but I think any other DJ will tell you like there's more work than just showing up on the floor. Um I do have crates categorized in like by genre, or sometimes like I do radio as well. Um so sometimes I curate stuff that I specifically want to feature for that bit, and then I'll save it. I'll save folders slash crates for those particular shows, just so I don't repeat myself in the future. But I like to run with what makes the crowd. Oh, here's the Kiwi slang for you, bar up, which kind of gets them riled up, Um, I think that, well, from my personal process, I've just been doing it for so long that I kind of know what's gonna flow and where to go, and I have more of a fluid and innate journey of like making things like ramp up, slow down so that people can go get drinks or whatever, and then bring them back on the floor to get hyped up again and to like smoothing it out and like getting people out of like the bar or ready for the next set.
Right. I never thought of those things because in my head, I'm like, okay, let's pick the most popular songs, because they like those songs. But I guess there's a
Yeah.
lot more that goes into it.
It is a mix of songs that will get people hyped up and familiar, but then it's also a bit of like, here's my taste and here's what I want to introduce you to, and if you fuck with it, cool. 'Cause I think I pride myself on being clean with blends and transitions. I think it's kind of a dying art. Maybe it's cool in LA because LA will always be that girl with tunes. Here the culture is really into techno and D&B, and so that's like the predominant gig space. And I don't retrofit myself to play that music. I can play offshoots of it, like house or whatever, but I do want to be someone that represents my culture and brown culture is adjacent, to give them a safe space to where feel like they can, be expressive themselves. And also, QT BIPOC spaces, like queer trans, like BIPOC spaces, because not everywhere feels safe for those particular communities. And, not every queer person has grown up like it's just been so eclectic, like that. Techno is not going to represent everybody, like Chapel Roan's not going to represent everybody, like, yeah, basically a space that's kind of like a for us by us kind of thing. And that's something that's not as predominant here as it would be in LA, where you got like, selection being like very community based for like-minded people. Like the thing I miss about LA is that as big as it is, like there's something for everybody and you just got to find it. Here there's a lot of competition for the same spaces because it's so small. Like it's a small city that I live in. City vibes, but like probably the size of like Northridge.
Northridge.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So you recently decided to like cut out alcohol. What made you decide to do that?
It wasn't for anything like this is a detriment to my life. Different than your journey, which I appreciate. But I think, especially after going through my health stuff with cancer and all that, and getting older, recovering from just drinking even a few drinks like wipes me out. I have chronic fatigue after, everything that I've been through, and long COVID has definitely fucked me over. So alcohol just didn't seem to be helping the situation, especially with as busy as I am, especially with, working on my side hustles on the weekends because I don't have as much time during the week. And boxing also helped, that decision, because when you're going through camp, you really can't be drinking because you got to wake up at 5 a.m. to train like 3 to 5 times a week. There's just no time and space. And I've just kind of kept on that outside of like training because it just, I don't know. It didn't feel like it was really helping me out, and I'm an introvert at heart, so I don't really go out like that to get pissed. We say pissed in New Zealand. That's when you get drunk. We get pissed.
Got it. Yeah, because I always wonder what that meant. I mean, I know in Australia they say it too, but yeah, towards the end of partying, I kind of slowed down on the drinking because it really took a toll. I don't regret it. I think there was a time and place when I was a lot younger, but man, like you said, I mean, a couple beers will get me, I couldn't drink like I used to. I think at 27, because I always blacked out a lot. I blacked out a lot frequently, and I thought it was kind of normal, and I realized, no, it's not normal. And that, I don't know, I just thought, at 27, I realized, I'm a lightweight. I had to tell myself that, because for the longest time, I told myself, no, you can hang out, you can handle whatever they're drinking. They'll take a shot, you can take a shot, you'd be cool. It's that like, you feel like you're invincible. But then I realized like, hey, I am lightweight, I'm not afraid to admit it. And once I admitted that to myself, I realized, hey, can't be drinking like this, but the other part of it is I started doing other drugs. So like yeah, but no, that's good, because at the end of the day, you can't drink and all this stuff and still do what you want to do and get it done. There have been times when I thought I could party on the side, but I'd wake up late or I didn't get much sleep, and it would affect my performance in work and school and different things I like doing.
Yeah, real good on you.
Mm-hmm.
How long have you been sober now?
I've been clean for about 20 months. I think October will be 2 years. So it's definitely been a journey. Yeah. Okay. Shot. And I heard good on you. Like that's also slang, right?
Kapai means
Kapai.
Well done.
That's Maori. Well done. Yeah. So it's not as, I mean, like, I don't really get cravings so much, but I just have issues with like impulse. Like if I'm stressed out, I'll probably order a pizza. Feel
Yeah.
anxious, that kind of stuff. Or if, I try to save money, but I'm not the best at it, to be honest. And I like to go out, have fun.
Yeah.
And I'm realizing that when I'm stressed out, I like to go out, get something to eat. And, it's nice, but like a lot of times I find myself doing things where I could have just stayed home, but I have to manage with this anxiety and dealing with it. I
Mm.
see a therapist. So it's just not, once the drugs and alcohol stop, it's the addiction or that need to like level out still there. And I got to work on that.
Mm. How much of that is um kind of like overlaps with like your ADHD diagnosis of like probably stimming or needing to like fixate on something, you know?
It overlaps a lot. I mean, I think that's what it is for the most part.
Yeah.
I have a hard time, like sitting still. I'm like fidgeting, like my leg is moving
I'm like
right now.
watching my videos too, and I'm like swaying, so I'm just like,
No,
oh shit.
no, you're
Okay.
good. No, hey, I'm the same way. I listen to songs on repeat, just one song to like get me going.
Yeah.
A lot of it is, I had a podcast with a therapist who specializes in ADHD, and she's like, yeah, it's a lot of people with ADHD may have issues with impulse. They
Mm.
might have issues with addiction. They have challenges with feeling bored because a lot of
Yeah.
times, yeah, I feel like a lot of times when I'm bored, realistically, I'm good. Like everything is good for the most part. I'm just chilling. It's a nice day, but I always have to feel like I got to do something, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And
Even when I
sometimes,
sleep, my brain can't turn off.
yeah, yeah, it's gonna be tough. Like sometimes I like have something in the background so I can listen to it, or like a chill podcast, or like someone narrating something in a very monotone voice.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Joe Pera is my dude.
okay, I gotta check that out.
Look up Joe Pera. He has a podcast of about like basically like that's his deal is he has such a monotone voice that it'll put you to sleep. So that was my fixation for a bit. And then it switches to like Dipsy.
Mm,
Shout out Dipsy. It's a audio porn site or app.
okay, I'll check that out. Dipsy.
Like DIPSEA.
Okay, dipsy.
Yeah.
Like okay, dip in the sea. Yeah, because man, I don't know about you, but sometimes like I spiral. Like when I'm laying in my bed, I think of something, and dude, I just fixate on that and fixate on the potential negative outcomes. It's never really the good ones; it's all the bad ones.
Hmm.
Before you know it, it's been like a couple hours, and I'm like, "Fuck, dude!" Like I just spiraled. I just realized it. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I just can't turn it off. And um I try to practice mindfulness and I listen to apps, for that. But especially during treatment, like breath work is fucking annoying. Like it doesn't work for me anymore to calm myself down from an attack, like it's one of the hardest things to do in the moment to ground yourself. So, it used to, but it doesn't anymore. That was part of the things, when I'm looking in my arsenal, like, oh fuck, how do I get out of this? Yeah.
Yeah, breath work for me. I guess I could try practicing it more because I do realize when I'm anxious or I'm feeling uncomfortable, my breaths are more shallow. I don't take deep enough breaths, and I'm sure that does something to my body.
Hmm.
So it's definitely something I got to be mindful of. I mean, honestly, a lot of times I like to eat, like order a pizza because that's going to put my ass to sleep. And when I'm sleeping, I can't worry, It's kind of
Yeah.
a weird thing.
Yeah. What So I have a question because sometimes I feel like a fraud when I say that I'm sober because I don't fuck with hard drugs anymore. I haven't done that since I've moved. Oh, fuck, that's a lie. I have done MDMA here. But after like my first year here, I was like, especially at cancer, I was like, definitely not doing hard drugs again. But I'll still fuck with marijuana. And because that helps me sleep more than anything. And I hate that it's not a legal thing here. But when I went back home in 2022, I was going to the dispensaries like, this is great. But yeah, like, not drinking alcohol, I'm like, yeah, cool, chill. But then the desire to and almost need to still want to do marijuana makes me feel like I can't entirely say I'm sober. But as someone who's like been in the throes with it, what's your take on that?
Everyone has a different take. I work a 12-step program, and according to this program, like that's a drug, but I know that there's different paths to recovery. My thing is, if cannabis can help you chill out without taking prescription drugs that can be potentially more dangerous and more addicting,
Mm-hmm.
by all means do it. I think personally for me, if it doesn't run your life, there's no harm in it. Like with everything,
Thanks.
like, yeah, no, I mean,
Yeah, that's
and
validating for
yeah,
me.
if
Thank
you're not
you.
like, yeah, of course. And if you're not like spending all your money, if it doesn't affect you in that sense, if you can get on with your life and it's just like a chill thing, I don't see a harm in it. You're not like ruining your life over it. So
Yeah.
I think everyone's different. Not everybody who does drugs or drinks or addicts or alcoholics. I think if anything, there's a small percentage of us. You know, I I used to be jealous of people that can like do coke and pop Molly and all the other stuff and get stuff done. I've seen it happen. It's proven. Like
Yeah.
I'm, my friends, I was like one of the only ones that had an issue, like let's say it's Friday night. Cool. We're doing coke, whatever. Saturday morning. Cool. Like, oh man, fuck. I don't feel well. Well, on Monday, they would be, all right, cool. Sunday night. Okay. I got to stop.
Yeah.
I got work. Cool. Me, I still keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Some people can go to the bar. They can have a couple drinks and they're like, okay, I'm cool. Or at a party, a couple drinks, I'm feeling good. Me, it's like, oh, I want to feel better. So I keep escalating. So
Mm.
back to your question thing, I feel like, I think it's okay. That's just my
Yeah.
opinion, but you're not like repping a bong every 2 minutes. And if you are,
Mhm.
that's okay too. So
Yeah.
I think it's different for everybody, but for me, I think you're good.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have as much access to it here anyway, so.
Okay. But yeah, I think it's in moderation. Some people can moderate, some people can't. If you can't,
Yeah.
that's okay too. Yeah.
100.
Yeah. So when did you decide I also saw on your Instagram that you had a boxing match. When did you get into boxing? Why did you do it?
Um, I've done TKD when I was a kid. I was always into sports and just technically learning how to do stuff. I think that where we're from, like it's very communal. Like when I was a kid, I was doing dancing and I went to like a Filipino run dance studio. Um, but in adulthood, like that was something I missed, um, and the aftermath of my second wave of depression, and then also dealing with a toxic relationship and breakup, I needed another outlet. I did try yoga in LA, and I just didn't like sitting with things, um, like and sitting with like the thoughts of things. So I was like, nah, this just needs to expel. I tried boxing because, excuse me, there's like a familiarity with contact sports from my days back when I was younger. Um, and I did like a boxing class at this gym called City of Angels in downtown LA. So hit them up. I love that space, and we're still cool. I'm so cool with the owners of that place, and they still wish me happy birthday, even though I've been in New Zealand all this time. Um, but yeah, it was really cathartic going through my first class, like back into it. Like it was such uh you're doing so much work without realizing it, and then you feel like you want to throw up at the end. And I just felt like, wow, I did so much work. I worked so hard and felt so accomplished. And honestly felt addicting. Um, and I will always remember boxing as the thing that um, helped curb depression and anxiety, and it still does even now. Um, I've always found like strong community in it, and the first year I was supposed to do a boxing fight. That's when I was hit with cancer and COVID, so no one in our camp got to fight, but everyone was so behind each other and so supportive. And then joining my last match, my last camp, that was kind of a okay, I need to finish what I started. To be honest, I don't have a fighter's mentality. I'm not like I don't got the eye of the tiger. I'm more, like I said, I just want to learn how to do the thing, and be technically great at it. So that was like the learning curve in fighting for me was amping myself up to want to fuck somebody up, you know? Um, so the whole journey to fighting wasn't really about getting in the ring and doing damage on somebody, but it was more just proving that I can do it to myself, and just having something to show for all the work I put in, you know. It was really more of a mental journey than like a physical one because I work ramped up in the middle of it and compartmentalizing your brain, you know, from one thing to another because you have early morning training, then I gotta go to work. It was actually quite good for me because it's like I do so much like at 6 a.m. in the morning and then show up to work and you know, you got your own problems at work and I just start the day feeling like no one can tell me shit. I just fucking got hit in the face and I punched people in the face back, you know? What are you gonna do?
Right. Right. No, I think that's pretty cool. I took up Muay Thai for a little bit. I wasn't as proactive, but yeah, I don't have the fighter's spirit. I don't want to like fuck people up. I want to do it to like get a release and to learn, you know, just in case something happens, but it just
Mhm.
feels good. It's a great exercise to like expel it in like such a physical way. You're not lifting weights, you're punching the bag, you're punching people, you know, in a controlled environment. So I totally get that. I remember doing some karate when I was younger and no kickboxing. I remember we had to do jump ropes for like 20 minutes before we did anything, but I felt so good after. I dreaded going to kickboxing class, but afterwards I felt so good. And I should definitely take up something similar, like something, you know, because I don't know. I think I would really benefit from it.
Yeah,
And
100.
yeah, last question. So what gets you through the difficult days? Because you've been through a lot through hell and back. What's helped you kind of just keep going?
I don't know. Um, yeah. Let me think on this for a moment. Because I still relate to the person that wanted to just, you know, dip on the world. And my suicide journey was nothing for insecurity or lack of confidence. I have a lot of confidence, more than I probably need. But it was always about this world is bullshit. And I don't want to fucking be here with all like what the fuck is this shit, you know? I grew up Catholic, um, and you taught all these values. I've experienced quite in-depth trauma and on a higher intellect level. Not that I'm really smart or anything, but when you really think about things, um, in an altruistic way, you're like, every fucking system is so hypocritical. And, you know, a world run by humans isn't all it's cracked up to be. Um, and I just want out. And a lot of my therapy work has been, you know, initially it was like, what's the, like, when were you the most happiest or content or, you know, and sometimes like I think back to when I was on holiday in Thailand, and even the Philippines, because those were like the first times I felt not responsible for anything. Like I didn't have to show up for work. I could just like I've worked so hard that I could just relax, and I don't feel that often. Um, so it was kind of like finding the everyday, like those moments, those bit of like holiday in my everyday. Um, and that tool kind of stopped working for a bit. But now it's so this is gonna sound a bit woo-woo, but when I was in treatment, or before I started cancer treatment, I have a really good friend from middle school, shout out Anna Magtoto, who practiced Reiki. And I'm not usually one that, gets into all this stuff. I'm not a witchy person. I'm not a wellness person, but I'm open to whatever. I will try anything once. And she offered to do a remote Reiki session when she found out that I was diagnosed with cancer. And I was like, yeah, what harm could it do? And I listened to a playlist that she curated to complement the work that she was doing where she was at the time. So I just kind of set myself up to lay down and be open to what was happening. And I can't explain it. Again, this is going to sound woo woo. But I really had a very transcendental visual experience. Like it was similar to to a trip I've had on acid, but I was completely sober. Like if you know what acid feels like and the things that you could see on acid, like I went there, but sober. And I saw the true essence of myself. Um, I saw my inner being, and looking back on other documentaries of people who had near death experiences, like it seems in line with what they experience, like seeing colors that don't exist in the world. And I identify as non-binary, but I recognize myself as a woman because I'm not going to deny the plights of Filipino and brown women. But I don't subscribe to gender constructs. So this vision that I had in this Reiki session validated that for me, and that my true being is none of those things, none of these earthly things. In fact, again, woo what I looked like in this vision was like a vapor mist, emitting gold, and I was like a neon green and orange, and I just everything was so valid. All my thoughts can exist at the same time. All my feelings can exist at the same time. There is no right or wrong. There just is, you know? Um, so how I get through the hard stuff, how do I get through my everyday is reminding myself that that is who I am at my inner core. And though it is hard to exist in that way on this plane, I'm doing my best to live in accordance with my true self.
No, that was good. Thank you. No, I thank you for that. I going back, I was raised Catholic as well. I don't prescribe to the beliefs. My family does. I mean, to each his own. If it makes you feel better, cool.
Yeah, there's validity in it.
Yeah, I never really got it. I believe in a higher power of my understanding. I think that's the inner conscience or whatever you might call it. But yeah, no, I mean, whatever gets you through your day, and that's powerful. That's cool. You had that experience. I personally never liked acid. I don't know, I was giggly and it lasted a long time. And I was more into the MDMA kind of stuff, but I know people do have really cool, uh, they learn a lot of things about themselves sometimes when they're on it. So that's really cool. You were able to do it without taking acid.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, that's valid. For me, it's just, I don't know. I know it could be a lot worse. Now that I'm clean, I still have bad days. Always have
Yeah.
bad days, but I can look back and think, man, when I was still using, I kind of fooled myself into thinking I was having a good time when I really wasn't. Life was a lot worse. So I have to compare that and just to this will pass. It's a lot easier said than done, but a lot of times, on bad days, I don't go on social media or limit it because I know it'll make it a lot worse
Yeah.
for me. But no, I mean, your journey's, it's ups and downs. I mean,
Yeah.
what you're saying, I had no, like, again, I had no idea about any of this. So just listening to you share a lot of times and just soaking it in, like, wow,
Yeah. Yeah. Like I hate to say it because it's such a cliche thing to say, but you really don't know what's going on with people, especially if you don't put it out there. Not that you have to, but yeah, I agree, like bad days are bad days, and sometimes I don't know how the fuck I get through that shit. But I think if anything that I've learned over the course of all like the crap I've been through, cancer included, is that I've come to really know myself. And I think having this Reiki session where I truly believe that I've seen like the true essence of myself and reinforcing my identity, like that's the truth that I know, and no one can tell me otherwise. Like no one can tell me who I am. Like I'm the one that knows. Therefore, nobody can tell me shit. And I'm such like if you, I have so much pride. Like I'm too proud to kind of go down in a way that's not myself, or like if you tell me I can't do something, I'll be like, the fuck? I'll be confronting about it. Like, so this whole cancer thing too was like, it was ironic in that, I've been through suicide and I've wanted to die. I wanted to like, myself. And here is like the universe telling me, oh, bet, you can't even die right. And I'm like, oh, you think I can't live? Watch me, you know?
right. I'm glad you can laugh at it now. I'm really glad you can smile and say these things because I'm sure it wasn't easy. I'm glad you found some sort of silver lining in it. That's a very interesting way to put it. I never was suicidal, but I do feel like all the drug use, I was slowly like killing myself. There's been a couple close
Hmm.
calls, and it's weird. Like, I don't know. Yeah, a couple close calls with it. And there's been times where it's like, my life is so shitty that I kind of, it, I wouldn't mind like not being here, but it's so fucked up and so weird. My desire to get high was a lot stronger.
Yeah, I feel
But
that.
yeah, but yeah, no, thank you for sharing, your journey, your story. Um, yeah,
Thanks for being open to listening to it, especially after all these years, what, 15 plus?
yeah. And I'm pretty sure people in the audience can relate to bits and pieces to it. But yeah, thank you so much. Where can we find you online and Substack and all that? Like, what's your DJ name? Where can we find your mixes and all that?
Most things I'm known as my DJ name, which is Steph Rose, Stefrose. You have to subscribe to my Substack, which is link in my bio. Because there are things that I put out there that I don't want everyone to see, but if like you're willing to be open to it, then I'm willing to share with you. I'm one that believes that you don't got to put everything on the internet, or you don't have to be so open about stuff.
Right.
Only to those willing to listen or willing to pay attention to you, and vice versa.
Definitely. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff I don't put out there just because I value my privacy to it. And in the day, I value my thoughts or share my thought to certain people that, feel the same way. Cool. All right. Thank you so much. That'll be all. Thank you, Stephanie,
Thanks
thank
for
you,
having
Steph.
me.
Thank you, Steph.
Thanks, Vaughn.
Salamat, Steph. All
Maraming
right.
salamat.
All right, salamat. All right. I'm gonna stop here.